my name is Alice, and I'm a part of the Handmade in Britain team. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Emily. So, hi, Emily, how are you?
Hi Alice, I'm good, thank you. How are
Good.
you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Now, we find you in your studio. Where's your studio based?
I'm based in Winchester. I work as a part of a little community. There are 7 of us at the moment, and we're based out of the old Park Keepers Lodge. My workshop just so happens to be the old ladies' loos. It has been gutted. There's nothing left in here except the tiled surfaces, which actually makes life a lot easier for me. Lots of wipeable surfaces.
Well, wonderful. I'm going to jump straight into it. Just really kind of for people that are joining us, for the first time here, tell us a little bit about you and your practice.
So I've been making jewelry for probably about 10 years now. I started quite young, just in terms of beads and things like that. And the obsession with making wearable pieces stayed with me for quite some time. And I got the opportunity to really explore metalwork, my first opportunity to explore metalwork and proper fabrication techniques at uni, where I graduated. I graduated from UCA Farnham in 2019, and since then I've had a couple of little workshops, and I've been making my own work from them since then. I work on a number of different projects. I do bespoke and commission pieces as well, which are very personal to the people asking for them. But I do a number of very specific collections with specific purposes, and very distinctive styles as well. I like to work in quite an experimental, quite playful way, and really push the boundaries of what I'm able to do. I have worked with mixed metals in the past, but I'm gearing slightly towards silver and hopefully a bit more gold now too. Um, and yeah, I think that's me.
So you've spoken a lot about kind of working for like the last kind of 10 years on there. And as we come to a point, quite reflective, in a lot of industries, today we've put forward, talking about, craft with, conscience. Now, what does that mean? But also, what does it mean for your practice?
Well, it was actually I hadn't thought of it in kind of like a title form. I hadn't thought of how to describe it until my very, very lovely primary school teacher of mine shared it on Facebook. And she described me as, a jeweler or craft with conscience. And I think grow I because I've been making jewelry for so long, I've started with just being obsessed with the materials and just focusing on the materials and seeing what piece would come from that. But as I've kind of grown up and become an adult and trying to understand the world and just life itself, what a complicated thing that is, and where my kind of place is, I think there's been a really the importance of being thoughtful in how I do that has really grown as well. So there's kind of like the obvious things in terms of I try and avoid any use of plastic as possible. I won't use jiffy bags with the bubble liner anymore. If I do use bubble wrap, it will be reused. I'm sorry if it's a little bit scrappy. It's not often I use it, but it will be reused from something that's come to me before, because I don't want to be using any plastic things. My boxes are made of recycled card. All of my business cards and any what are they called, additional kind of advertising flyers and things like that are all uncoated so that they can be recycled. But sometimes it's a bit of a funny balance, because I'm reluctant to use so much paper, but at the same time, it's one of the most effective marketing methods. And I'm still, despite having done this for quite a long time, I'm still very new to being a business, and I need to find a way of getting my name out there. And yeah, so there's that kind of aspect. There's the packaging and all of the material kind of things, and you know, reusing any scraps that I get, reusing some of the pieces that I make from sheet. I get manufacturing offcuts in terms of like brass and copper and things like that. I found a neat little eBay store that sells to big companies for big products, but they also sell the small offcuts that nobody wants. And whilst that's not useful for a lot of companies, it works really well for me because I'm not working on a particularly large scale. A couple of other things that I've used, I used to collect from the scrap bins at uni once everybody had thrown things away that they didn't want anymore, all the little funny little shapes of copper and brass. I would kind of hoard those. And I've repurposed all kinds of different things. And so aside from the whole material thing, I think concepts and values are quite important as well. I think whilst many people might not necessarily agree, I think it's quite important to share what my values are as a person as well as a business. And that, you know, I think that we should look after each other. And I think that there are lots of different ways of doing that. I think personally, I could never be a leader, a big political leader, or, you know, lead a revolution or any kind of thing like that. I don't have the confidence, I don't have the words, I don't have the correct brain processing to handle that kind of thing. Nor could I be, you know, a doctor or an emergency worker, because that requires another set of skills. My particular set of skills are jewelry and working small and making little creations. So if I can share information and offer a platform and raise money for people in need, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I have been doing, kind of, I've been trying to do, slowly gaining momentum, which is really amazing. I've done one collection has focused around you know, kindness and solutions, and, you know, rather than focusing on the negatives or the blame game or things like that, just as a wider concept, then solutions, kindness, stand up, say something, or, you know, help someone find a solution rather than getting caught up in the negatives. And that collection has a relevant charity attached to it. And then there's another collection which is going back to me kind of finding my place as an adult and trying to understand what it means to be a grown-up, and all of that kind of thing is a very complex, sometimes very overwhelming kind of concept, and as such there is quite a chaotic look to it. And that raises money for a mental health charity, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about. Sorry, there was a fly. It's quite passionate about being able to help other people in a way that I can. There's no use me trying to do something that I can't do or I'm not very good at. I can do this quite effectively, so I'm going to do it my way.
So of course, you know, we first met and worked with you, you know, kind of this time last year when you had the collection, you know, Make Jewelry Not War. And of course, how we've seen you progress this year is you've just given us a sneak peek there of chaos and catharsis. Now, what's interesting for me is, you know, to hear that backstory and how, you know, through your work you want to, you know, give profit and then support, you know, people other way. But what's also interesting is actually how you're doing it by the actual forms, because we've gone from, you know, kind of capturing a moment to now kind of capturing a fluid, you know, fluidity in motion. You know, how did that, you know, kind of come about?
I think sometimes these kind of ideas and collections and things like that, both the concept and the aesthetic kind of evolved together. So the very, very original early starting point was kind of an accident, and it kind of came about as I was working on something else, and a friend asked me to make something similar, but a little bit more. It was initially like faces and quite vague, kind of again quite fluid forms. But she didn't want anything that looked too much like a face. Like it could be a face, but it needed to be a bit more squiggly, for want of a better term. And so that became, that was a thing, and there was a couple of different experiments, a couple of different me trying to understand her terms and understand what, you know, her words meant in visual form, and all these different patterns and things started emerging. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have time to process this just yet, but I would like to revisit this later. And so a few years later, I've seen a couple of friends really struggle with their mental health. And I was like, okay, well, this kind of matches up. It's quite a chaotic time. And it's quite a chaotic piece, and the whole mental health thing is quite chaotic too. So all of these things start linking in, and start to kind of evolve together, and then you start playing with all the forms and things. There's quite a lot of different levels to this collection. So there's kind of like the mental health aspect, there's the you know, quite experimental, seeing what I can do with the materials and seeing what shapes I can make, what can then progress from that, what pieces of jewelry can I make from what I've got in front of me. And just in terms of, you know, having like quite chaotic or frustrating things going on, being able to do something that's actually quite soothing. So it's a kind of like a feeling of chaos turning into something that's quite a cathartic process, and then turning into a relatively chaotic object to look at. But it's a really cathartic thing to hold. It's like, it's when you pick up a smooth pebble on the beach and you just kind of just hold it and you fiddle with it in your hands, and it's really smooth and it's really soothing. It's a similar kind of thing, except it's super shiny, super shiny silver. And that's another element of the process that's really quite cathartic, is being sat in front of the polishing machine and watching this gleam emerge, because it's really, you can see it happening. It's not sudden, it's not super, well, it is sudden, it's not super slow. You can see this thing emerging, and it's really cathartic to watch, and it's actually almost quite magical. Yeah,
It's really kind of, I'm quite shocked in a way, because when I look at these pieces, I feel it's kind of really fast, you know, it's done very fast, but actually you're describing it as very slow to create, you know, something quite fast paced, you know, that's captured, you know. Does So you enjoy the kind of the slow pace of these pieces? How do you know? Do you think, is all your process, are all your process? I think what I'm trying to say, are all your processes so slow, and does it give you thinking time to the next? Because of course, obviously, you're going to be gaining ideas from these pieces. You know, are we looking forward to seeing something next?
it generally is quite slow, unless there is something like super simple, like a super simple like ring band or something like that I can build really quickly and finish up and polish in a few hours, or, you know, a super simple pair of earrings. I've got some quite small studs and things like that. Those are generally quite quick. But for the most part, because one of the processes I use is casting, I don't currently have those facilities here. So I'll make a model, I'll make a thing that will then be used later on. And I have to send it away for a week to 2 weeks. So there's all this anticipation of, will it work? What bits will be missing if not? Like the Make Jewelry Not More stuff is all cast, and I've had people come back with arms missing, with legs missing, all sorts of things. It's quite an uncertainty at that stage, and then when it comes back, I have to finish it all up. I have to remove any excess metal. I have to fix it to a piece, make it all shiny or make it all matte. So it can be really quite dependent on what the piece is. In terms of the Make Jewelry Not War stuff, that's all, the majority of those pieces were quite complex, and I was still in relatively early stage of making and pushing those boundaries and being confident enough in my technical skills that I would be able to do these things, but I was still quite new. So those were really quite slow, and there was a lot of learning as I went. There were a lot of copper models and things like that. With the chaos pieces, I haven't had the time mainly to go that wacky with the composition and the structures and things like that. It's mainly been about fixing them to jewelry pieces, making them really impactful and eye-catching, mainly through the polish, but also being thoughtful about where I'm placing the attachments, where the ring goes, where do the loops go on the back of the pendant, where do the ear fixings go so that you can't see it, so that it's solely about the piece, about the big squiggly piece. With this one in particular, you can't see, there's a lot of holes, but you can't see through, you can't see the ring band. It doesn't, it's a weird kind of way to put it, but it doesn't shatter the illusion that it's a piece of jewelry. It looks like a floating piece of silver. And with the big statement earrings, I didn't want to put them on ear hooks because then you'll be able to see the ear hook. So I put them on studs, so it's literally this isolated piece of jewelry. There's the big pendant pieces. So this one's not entirely finished just yet, but big pendant pieces like this with lots of holes in, when they're strung up, I have to be careful to really consider where I'm placing the loops on the back so that you don't see any cord through the holes as you're wearing it, because again, it kind of shatters an illusion. I have a picture of one of my favorite pendants, and I'm the model in the photo shoot because it's only a one-man band and I have little time and I have a particular way that I like to do things. So I'm wearing a black dress with this pendant strung on a black cord, and it just looks like it's floating. It just looks like a piece of silver that's just floating there. And it's one of my favorite pieces and one of my favorite photos as well, because it's not about anything else. It's just about the piece, the chaotic piece. A lot of the attachments and things, so the ring pieces, say for this cocktail ring, are in keeping with the rest of the piece. So this is done on quite a wiggly band, which is also available as a separate piece of jewelry. Just so that, you know, when you do turn it over, when you do look at it, it doesn't seem alien. It looks like it all works. It's not like a last minute addition. It was carefully considered to make sure that the entire piece would be fluid and make sense, all of the components together.
You know, it's actually, I don't know what it is about these pieces, but every time you kind of say something else, it's really, again, it looks like it's just kind of, free form, but actually the thought behind it. And then once you've mentioned that you can't see the bands, you can't see the fixings, it actually comes back to actually how much care and attention you take to that, because I wouldn't have noticed that until you pointed it out. But at the same time, I'm so pleased you pointed it out because I didn't realize it and I didn't spot it. So I think you're kind of doing a job that a lot of people wouldn't be looking for. We just kind of get it, and it just kind of works. So kind of taking it back again, from the gig, you've spoken a little bit about, kind of early stage, kind of building up your confidence, kind of building on things. How has this year, since we caught up with you kind of last November, how has this year kind of influenced and kind of gone way or gone forward to perhaps informing you even more about, consciousness and how you work?
Um, I've I've spent a lot of time just working, really. I think because this time last year, there were a lot of changes going on. I just moved workshop. I hadn't always had a particular up to that point. I hadn't necessarily had a particular collection or object or something to focus on. Everything was still a little bit all over the place, but I think my focus in the past year, realizing that, running a small craft business could actually be possible. Like it's not something that's going to be a hobby. At some point, if I continue to work hard and monitor everything well, keep track of the finances and things like that, it is not beyond the realms of possibility that this might someday be my only job. That was a big realization, a very exciting one. I think that really helped me focus and make sure that I was focusing my energies and things on the right thing. I think a lot of it has to do with my organization, actually. I have a planner, I have a diary. This is the first time ever I've actually used a diary for longer than January, which is, I think, a miracle. And that's made a massive difference. The type of content and information that I consume on social media has changed a lot as well. I was informed by a marketing consultant that it's a really good idea to not follow people that operate similar to you. So try not to follow too many jewelers, because you'll end up stuck in a circle of jewelers and it'll only show you to jewelers, and that's not what you want. If you start following things that align with your values or align with your interests and your kind of like target market audience interests, then you'll find that the whole social media thing gets a little bit easier. And what I found is that as a result of that, I'm learning so much. Like a lot of my values and what I hope my customers' values are is, humanity and the best interests for other people, and making sure people are treated fairly and not discriminated against, or people who are in need get support that they need, and that nobody takes too much and nobody's too greedy. Nobody thinks that they know everything. I'm still learning so much. I know that the whole of life is just going to be a whole learning journey. I'm not going to pretend that I know everything that I should know or intend to know or anything like that. I know that there's still an awful lot to learn, but it's just the people, the content that I'm now exposed to is just increased, and it kind of widened my awareness of the world, what's going on in the world, and history things, current affairs, and just all kinds of things that I think add up to being a good, like, nice human being. And sometimes it can be a bit intense, but it's always a good idea to take a little break from social media. But other times I'm very grateful to have these sources of information that are so eloquent and informative.
So kind of you've spoken a lot about kind of, support, and, kind of, giving your profits, but you donate. How important is that to your practice? And do you want to tell us about, maybe a charity that you support?
So I was one of my I don't know if it's a negative thing, is that I can't fixate just on one cause that I want to help. There are so many different things that I believe in and that I think that should be supported and should have attention drawn to it. I don't know if that is practical in the long run, because maybe it means that there aren't as many funds distributed towards the one place, but I actually quite like the fact that it can be spread out across multiple places. I think for me it's really important. It might not be a big chunk. It's 10% of particular collections, and then sometimes some extra things if I fancy it. And I think it just feels good. It feels nice knowing that something that I'm doing, maybe not necessarily directly, I'm not directly helping these people, I'm not directly curing anybody, I'm not directly looking after anybody, but just little bits that I can do every so often, that can help someone, that can make their life a little bit easier. It feels really nice to be able to support that. And so we've done a couple of different charities. When my gorgeous chocolate lab sadly passed a couple of years ago, it was just before Christmas, he had good timing. That year's Christmas collection, 10% of that went to the Labrador Lifeline Trust, which is a local dog charity. Then the Make Jewelry Not War, the 10% of that goes to Médecins Sans Frontières, which are an amazing charity who work all over the world, rescuing people in, crazy unsafe areas. They've had, centers blown up and things like that, but it doesn't stop these people with the most enormous hearts and amazing capabilities to help people and look after people. It doesn't stop them. They carry on going. They rebuild it. They start again. I think they're very deserving of support. The Chaos Catharsis one, that donates to a UK a national mental health charity called SANE. And we actually did a little raffle for them earlier this year, and they sent me a certificate as a thank you, which is a really nice thing to do. We raised £350 in the raffle, and because of the sales of the collection, we've done quite well throughout this year, so I can make another donation before the end of the year. And I'm going to be doing another raffle before Christmas, so if anybody wants some super special little Christmas gift, this raffle will be raising money for a charity that my mum's cousin runs, and I don't want to butcher the name of the village, so I'm not going to try, but it's a Kenyan village that she visits on a regular basis, and she supports the women that live there. And these women have struggled from all sorts of things, whether it's illness, family members dying, husbands leaving them, and left with children, and they've got to support them somehow. But the opportunities for that aren't brilliant. So what she's done is she's made partnerships with nutrition clinics so that the children can make sure that they can make sure that the children are really healthy. They're helping fund the children going to school so they can get an education, so that they can go to work and they can earn money and they can live a good life. The mothers, she set up opportunities to teach them, most recently basket weaving, and in the Facebook group that she runs, we've had all sorts of stories, heartwarming and hilarious stories of them approaching all these learning curves to learning a new skill. But this basket weaving means that they can make baskets and they can sell baskets and they can bring the money in themselves, because they don't want to rely on other people. They don't want money just being given to them. They don't necessarily want clothes and stuff just being given to them. They want to be able to do that themselves. So she's done this amazing thing, and I'm going to be doing a little interview with her as well, to set up this opportunity for them. It's not, handing them stuff, it's giving them the tools that they need to be able to elevate themselves. And in case of emergencies, there's been a couple of emergency operations and things like that. She's banded together the Facebook group, and everybody's pledged a little bit of an amount so that this person can get a life-saving surgery. And it's such a wonderful little group and wonderful little display of just pure human kindness, people just doing things out of the kindness of their hearts. And they don't know these people, they have no idea, but they just, they're helping. And so this little raffle will be supporting them before Christmas.
Oh, I wish you the best of luck with that. I really do. It's been, Emily, I could keep chatting to you. You've got so much to give. I think the title of this was, was Craft with Consciousness, but actually it's been really refreshing to actually have a chat, with a maker with such a strong belief, and that's kind of really gone through, the levels of your work and that kind of growth year, and looking at different ways. So I think, really kind of for this talk, it's certainly, the maker, the maker behind the piece, the conscience behind the maker, I should say. So Emily, it's been great, and for everyone who's here, thank you so much, for for being with us. So you've been joining, Emily Smith of the Metalsmith, and you've been, a part, of Handmade Chelsea Online, the interactive virtual craft fair, which runs from Thursday the 18th to Sunday the 21st of November. Now, don't rush away. You can continue to chat with Emily, online. So you just pop over to her interactive, chat. And please, do visit her web shop as well. I pop the link in chat, but you can also go and visit our website, interact.handmadeinbritain.co.uk. Emily, once again, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone, for attending. I wish you a lovely evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon. So, Emily, thank you for joining us from your studio. It's been really lovely to chat with you today.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. Bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye.